In every generation, there's a founder who doesn't just build a company, he builds a worldview. Some founders shout, others charm. But once in a while, one arrives who moves like a quiet blade through the noise. A young immigrant who scrubbed toilets in a Kentucky boarding school. A shy kid who never quite fit anywhere. A man who would grow into the leather jacket samurai of Silicon Valley. Discipline in his spine, prophecy in his eyes. His name is Jensen Huang, and he didn't just predict the rise of AI, he built the engine that made it possible. This is the story of the founder who turned a gaming chip company into the beating heart of the AI revolution. Jensen Huang begins his life in motion. Born in Taiwan, shuffled through Thailand, then dropped into rural America before he even understood what home meant. His parents worked constantly, chasing stability, and Jensen, small, introverted, foreign, ends up in one of those rough Kentucky boarding schools where you learn two things fast: how to survive and how to endure. He cleans bathrooms for pocket money. He dodges bullies. He doesn't complain. He watches. He studies people. He builds an inner world of quiet intensity. That intensity becomes his compass. He excels in math, engineering, pattern recognition, the language of systems. And almost without noticing, he becomes the kind of person who sees structure where others see chaos. By the time he enters the world of chip design, he isn't just an engineer. He's a strategist forged by displacement. He knows how to operate on the edges. He knows how to survive in hostile terrain. He knows how to fight without raising his voice. In 1993, three engineers, Jensen Huang, Chris Malachowski, and Curtis Preem, start a company built on a rebellious belief that the world will soon need a new kind of chip. Not the office-bound CPU, but something built for movement, simulation, and parallelism. Something that could make computers feel alive. And they need a name that captures that ambition. Jensen fixates on a Latin root he can't let go of: NVIDIA, envy. Not envy as pettiness, but envy as propulsion. The constructive kind competitors feel when someone builds something they wish they had built. That's the emotion Jensen wants to engineer. A company that produces technology so powerful, so visually astonishing, that the industry turns just a shade greener. They trim the word, modernize it, and the company becomes NVIDIA, a name chosen not for branding, but for intent. NVIDIA wasn't named after envy. It was named to create it. Inside this newborn company, Jensen begins shaping a culture that feels less like a startup and more like a dojo. Precision matters. Discipline matters. Focus matters. And the man setting the tone wears a black leather jacket like a founder's kimono, not fashion, but ritual. He buys identical versions of the same jacket, an armor he dons daily, a reminder of the consistency he demands from himself and everyone building beside him. NVIDIA pushes through brutal years. They nearly die several times. Competitors are bigger, wealthier, louder. But Jensen has something they don't: a long-term map in his head that no one else can see yet. The first major win arrives with the Riva 128, then the iconic GeForce 256, the world's first official GPU. Suddenly, NVIDIA isn't the strange newcomer, it's the new standard. But Jensen still isn't satisfied. Because while the world celebrates gaming, he's staring at a different horizon, a horizon called AI. The early 2000s tech world obsesses over social networks, mobile devices, and ads. AI is a dusty academic hobby. Neural networks are considered fossils, too slow, too inefficient. But Jensen sees something in them, a pattern, a rhythm, a whisper that these structures want to grow, if only they could be accelerated. GPUs, he realizes, aren't graphics chips. They're parallel thinking machines. He proposes something radical, a universal computing model for GPUs, a programming language for a future that doesn't exist yet. They call it CUDA. It consumes nearly everything NVIDIA has. Engineers push back. Investors roll their eyes. Analysts call it a billion-dollar detour. But Jensen isn't gambling. He's executing a prophecy. He teaches NVIDIA employees something he learned as a child. You prepare before the world understands why. CUDA launches. The world shrugs. But then quietly, something extraordinary happens. Researchers experiment. Neural nets run faster on GPUs. Then much faster. Then breakthrough fast. Deep learning ignites. AlphaGo, self-driving cars, medical imaging, robotics, language models, drug discovery, simulations. Every breakthrough uses GPUs running Jensen's once ridiculed architecture. AI didn't crown NVIDIA. NVIDIA summoned AI. Every founder story has a shadow, moments when everything they built teeters on the edge. NVIDIA had several of these. The 2007 financial crisis, a catastrophic chip defect that cost the company hundreds of millions. Competition from giants on all sides, the market reducing them to just a gaming chip company. But Jensen's leadership remains eerie in its calm. While others chase quarterly optics, Jensen doubles down on long-term inevitability, acceleration, architecture, discipline. NVIDIA reorganizes itself into a single idea. Everything, every field, every industry, every future will eventually depend on accelerated computing. When AI hits exponential velocity, NVIDIA doesn't just participate, it becomes the backbone of the entire movement. Jensen didn't avoid the fall, he outran it. Today, NVIDIA is one of the most important companies in the world, not because it manufactures chips, but because it manufactures possibility. Every AI model, every robotics system, every simulation, every scientific breakthrough built on acceleration, they all trace back to Jensen's insistence that the world would need a parallel brain. The kid cleaning toilets in Kentucky became the architect of the intelligence age. But Jensen never speaks like a conqueror. He speaks like a teacher, a strategist, a man who sees the future not as destiny, but as responsibility. He once said, "I hope to create a future that is better than what was intended." That line captures him perfectly, a founder who doesn't just predict the future, but trains for it. The leather jacket, the ritual, the discipline, they're not style, they're philosophy. Jensen Huang built the acceleration engine that powers the entire AI age. But next, we leave the world of silicon and enter the world of silk. Our next Founder Files story follows a woman who began life as an orphan, reinvented elegance, reprogrammed identity itself, and built one of the most powerful brands in history. Coco Chanel, the founder who rewrote not technology, but taste. Now I want to hear from you. Which founder, company, or rise and fall story should we cover next? Drop your ideas in the comments, and it might just become the next episode of The Founder Files.